The Ifugao Rice Terraces, a wonder of the world that is the pride of so many Filipinos. A World Heritage Site according to UNESCO. You can find them anywhere from the 20 peso note to Philippine tourism ads. They were also where Thanos rested after he snapped out half of existence. Breathtaking as they may be, they're not mere postcard fodder. They're actually a part of a larger conversation about national Philippine identity. So let's take a few brief minutes to explore why they matter. If you go to the Ifugao Rice Terraces page on the UNESCO website, you'll see the terrace's listed age as 2,000 years old. Britannica and National Geographic both concur with this claim regarding the rice terrace's age. But what if this 2,000-year-old model is wrong?
The terraces are not 2,000 years old.
The rice terraces are not 2,000 years old.
These two are Stephen Acabado and Marlon Martin. They spearheaded the IAP, or the Ifugao Archaeological Project.
Ifugao Archaeological Project is a collaborative research program between the community and various academic institutions.
The IAP ultimately sought to conserve Ifugao heritage culture, and this included meticulously dating the terraces. But before we get to their findings, we must figure out where the 2,000-year-old model came from. Where was the 2,000-year, the long history model, where was that derived from?
It's a great question. So it was part of H. Otley Byers' model of the waves of migration. So he wanted the age of the terraces, the dating of the terraces, to fit his model of waves of peoples coming in to the Philippines. You know, the Negritos, the Indonesians, the Malays. And according to that model, the Malays or the Ifugaos were part of the second wave of Malays.
The crux of Byers' theory was predicated on tools being an indicator of sophistication. There are many problems with this theory, but one of the central issues is the simple fact that there was no evidence for this theory. And it was this theory that birthed the idea that the terraces were 2,000 years old. As the 2,000-year-old model had no evidence, the Ifugao Archaeological Project got to work.
We tested our hypothesis that the terraces are much younger than previously thought. We looked at paleoethnobotany, we looked at isotopes, we looked at faunal remains.
Through multiple excavations in the 2010s, the Ifugao Archaeological Project was able to find actual data to date the terraces rather than go off on a baseless theory. The results of their endless digging is best explained by this graph, a stratigraphic column that works as a cross-section of an archaeological excavation. In simple terms, the deeper one digs into the earth, the older the artifacts they will find. And in this case, rice was only found in a layer dated to 1640 to 1800 CE. In other words,
evidence.
But the archaeological record was not the only data used to date the terraces. It was imperative to consider indigenous oral histories and local community records as well. Marlon Martin is indigenous Ifugao. He'll explain the other forms of data collected.
So we got to interview a lot of elders, asking them how their terraces started. The rice terraces are, these are private properties. Each family would have their own terrace cluster, and they have stories. And most, if not all of them, would actually be within that same time frame, based on the archaeological record.
So why exactly does it matter that the terraces aren't 2,000 years old? Well, that has to do with resistance.
These were not taught in school. The Philippines was under Spain for 333 years. That's it. Should have said except Ifugao or except the Cordilleras, but they never did.
So they went up to the mountains as an act of resistance, to avoid Spanish taxation, maybe avoid diseases that they've heard. So moving away is an act of resistance because they didn't want to be part. It was an active decision. And then with rice, shift to rice agriculture because rice farming requires a specific form of social organization. So that paved the way for a more complex socio-political organization that allowed them to militarily resist Spanish conquest.
The conclusions of the IAP's research are particularly illuminative and important when considering the importance of narrative, specifically the narrative of the Ifugao people.
Component of the colonial foundation of the 2,000-year-old model is isolation. That to be an indigenous person, indigenous group in the Philippines, you have to be isolated from the rest of the world. You are not part of this global community.
Concerning the Ifugao people, it's valuable to consider the power that narrative has on shaping human perception.
So like I remember telling someone I was Ifugao and a Filipino professor was like, oh, that means like she's Igoro, which was fine. I was okay with that. But then the student was like, oh, I didn't know Igoros were real. I thought that was just like an insult my parents used. But he was just like surprised that we like exist and we don't have tails and like the things that people say.
These derogatory perceptions are reinforced by the narratives perpetuated by education and media. The 2,000-year-old model regarding the Terraces age is the epitome of that. These narratives paint a picture of indigenous peoples as backwards and incapable, dehumanizing them in the process. That simply needs to change.